so that was just the intent and the purpose of these calls, and a lot of great information shared. We just want to get to know you guys on a deeper level, and just really be here to support you guys and support you in your journey. You guys are doing noble work, and you're really setting out there to make a difference. And there aren't a lot of people out there willing to do that and be bold and take action and make that happen. So, we have great information to share, and we want to be there with you every step of the way. And so, what I'm going to do is I want to introduce my mom, Sherry Watson, and guys, she's been very successful in her career, as you guys know, and it's helped a lot. And she could be doing most anything with her time right now, but she really chooses to spend this time with you because she loves it. She loves this. She loves what this is about and what this can lead to. And so, take this information and do great stuff with it, and get active with the questions that you need and the support that you need. And we look forward to this being a big thing for us moving forward, these Purpose Fridays. Think about it as like a happy hour with a purpose. So we're doing something good here. It's going to be a lot of fun. And so with that, we're going to be talking about what's working now, and then, like I said, answering questions in real time. So without further ado, Mom, are you on?
Hey, I'm here, you guys.
All right.
And you know what, Derek and Aaron, I got to tell everyone, they're really the foundation of the mission we launched, and being able to reach that kind of mission. Derek and Aaron are the co-founders when we came together and said, it's time to take this to a bigger level. We're being led. We need to now empower people, and they put together the team and the systems that allows us to bring you this, to bring the tools and resources. So I up front want to say, Derek and Aaron, you're very humble in the introductions. I want everyone to know you're the biggest part of bringing this to fruition. So I want to thank you and congratulate you for bringing in your friends, your colleagues, young entrepreneurs to learn how to live their purpose at such an early age. Fantastic.
Awesome. Yeah, and we like to think that we learn from the best. So
hey, I like that.
That's right. That's right.
So, yeah, we're all in this together, and we're going to make an enormous difference. And so I'm glad to be a part of it and be able to chat with you guys. So
the only thing I'm going to ask from everyone listening to join me, okay, guys, the whole team really wants me to use a webcam so we can have some personal interaction. But don't you think it's fair if a girl, and you got to get your jewelry on and that, don't you think the guys need to be on the webcams too?
No.
So, come on, you guys, join me a little bit on that.
Oh, we don't want to put people
on. Well, I will in the future, but I dialed in with my phone here. So I guess I get a free pass this time.
Oh, that sounds like an excuse. No,
yes.
Next time.
And as for me, we don't want to scare people away either. So.
That's what it's more about. We don't. Yeah. We're definitely better behind the scenes.
Well, Aaron, we had such an amazing happy hour Friday, a Purpose Friday last week. And I didn't realize, you guys, it went on for over 2 hours, 2.5 hours or more. So talk about a great happy hour. So today we won't have as long of a happy hour, but a lot of it was the Q&A that you guys came forward with. And it was just such a privilege. You guys, it just lit my heart up to be able to share in those Q&As with you. And Uma, if you're on, to send an email with what it meant. That's what we're about. Our purpose is to give you the tools, inspiration, belief, the faith that you can go out and do the same thing. So keep sending those kind of things to us because, again, this is our purpose. So congratulations, you guys, for stepping up, taking your Friday. And I thought, man, that is one of the best happy hour Fridays I've had. You guys, and waiting around for the music, that's always my favorite time of happy hour because I love music. So, we're going to have to incorporate some pretty fun things on these Purpose Fridays. So, Derek and Aaron, next time we're going to be adding some music. We'll be doing the happy dances, so I want everyone on the camera for that.
Sounds great. Yeah, so let's take it away. Let's dive into some training on what's working now, and then we'll roll with the Q&A. But it was great to be able to connect with everyone, and I look forward to our future interactions. We all have a bright future here together. We stay connected.
Thanks, Aaron. Thank you.
Yep.
Well, guys, let's get started. I want you to notice, for those of you who were with me last week, I have a little bit of color this time. Had to add my purple, right? And when we first started our company years and years ago, they said, okay, you have to have a trademark, like Donald Trump's hair. And I thought, well, that's easy. I've always loved purple. As a little tiny girl, my rooms were purple, my curtains were purple. It makes me so happy. It makes me in a really different kind of energy. And so at first the guys were kind of like, oh, they'd wear purple ties and purple shirts. And then they got where the girls were commenting on it. So they decided it was pretty cool to be wearing their purple shirts. So I was telling Derek, you guys, when you joined us last week, those of you that did, those of you that didn't, need to know we got to have fun doing this. And always my motto has been with the teams I've built and the teams I've been with, if it's not fun, we're not doing it. So last week I thought, gosh, I got to make the backdrop more fun, right? So I printed out the Purpose Friday that you see on the screen, and I put it behind me. You guys, it's like seeing it backwards. So that didn't work. So today we're starting out our Purpose Friday with some fun, with a little more color, and want to share, you guys, and take some time with your Q&As. And it was amazing last week to hear about a camp for underprivileged kids, to hear about what's happening in Hawaii with the Wellness Center. Fits perfectly into, we started out last week, and I told you some of my history, where I came from, how we started one nonprofit, how we grew it into hundreds of nonprofits around the country, and how we stayed connected. We built a coalition, and how we built systems then to start empowering us to live our own lives of destiny, but also to educate our leaders, our Medicaid, our Medicare, our insurance, our community members that were struggling with putting parents in nursing homes. We created a movement to bring this country together to begin with, to learn the economics and the quality of life by changing that system. Our long-term care was broken. That system didn't make sense economically or quality of life. Now, fast forward that to where we are today. The same kind of thing. I think we can all agree that this is the greatest country in the world to live in. We've got beautiful opportunities, but we're not going the direction we need to for our future. I mean, our kids having $1 trillion and trillion dollar debt, half of our country being in debt with their student loans with the highest unemployment ever, our veterans coming home that have rebuilt the world and then coming home to no jobs, no benefits, 6 years going to a VA, getting a handful of drugs. I mean, we got to think about where we're going to take this so that our future is going in a direction where our kids and grandkids have an opportunity like we have. I'm telling you guys, 3 grandbabies now. Briley's 6, Davin's 4, Mason's 2. And I look at those little guys, what kind of world are we leaving for them? If that doesn't motivate you, looking at the kids, let's empower our youth. Let's create entrepreneurial training for youth. That dropout rate that's now 70%. All the technology coming in, the text, the Facebook, the emails, where there's no connection with community now. Let's go in and teach these young future leaders how to be connected, how to build community again. We've gotten so far away from community. One of our team members that you'll be meeting, Ryan, he did a really beautiful housing project. He took a block, and it was gang infested and drug, and it was draining the revenues of the city. He took that and rebuilt homes that all the people participated in and did sweat equity. They'd never owned their own home. Veterans, people with disabilities, single moms, and to give them the opportunity to be part of the American dream. And his nonprofit brought together funding from USDA, from state housing, all the places that a lot of the big folks go in, and they leverage every penny of our city funding, of our county funding, our state revenues. We have housing trust fund, we have tax credits, we have low-income housing tax credits, all those things that real estate investors are not aware of. And you become a nonprofit corporation and do that, then you have funding from USDA, you have funding. So I watched Ryan build this whole subdivision where people with disabilities, veterans, they were all part of building. And it was so cool what came out of that that was not even an intended benefit that we had seen, is that as they all started helping each other, you know, you had folks in a wheelchair, so maybe the veteran would come over and help, and they had to do so many hours a week. It built the biggest, tightest, most comprehensive, just connected sense of community I've seen. They all helped each other. Well, it's time to come back to that. We have young adults with autism that are sitting in back bedrooms. Parents are having to quit jobs because now they're no longer supported through a school system. They're 23. There's no supports. And so what's happening to that community? So we want to take these Fridays and share in your journey. I want to hear what you're doing so that we can give you input, so that we can help you grow and be part of something bigger than all of us. You know, to take now all of the veterans projects, all of the affordable housing projects, all the renewable energy projects, the youth projects, and start bringing you guys together to start building that movement. So you're in Texas, you're in Colorado, you're in New Mexico, you're in Florida, bringing you together to start sharing what just happened in Florida, what we just did in New Mexico with a local tax credit for affordable housing, and now how you can do that in Florida. That's how we did it, and we have such a rich, successful track record. You look at the disability movement, you look at our history. It's the most powerful movement that created our own civil rights legislation that brought change to the world than anything that's been done. Well, now we can do that with all these other groups. I mean, the banking industry. We looked at trying to bail out banks. That didn't work. We're looking at the money still not moving like it should. My mom, our mentors in life, they're not getting any kind of, you know, interest on their, so they're dipping into the principal. They no longer can live a life where they're continually giving back. Now they're going, oh my gosh, there's nowhere I can make any interest. There's some things called social impact bonds in the nonprofit world that are just rolling out. I'm giving you a lot of things right now. I want you to be writing them down, but to just show you where we're going with the nonprofit world, how that you can become one of the ones that gets the funding. And you guys, we have so many revenue streams to bring in. That's what I'm so excited about, sharing with you in our different projects. So when we send out the emails and we talk about some of the cutting edge strategies, some of the things that are happening today, every day, as we're walking the walk. what I thought I'd share with you today, since I shared some of my journey last week and kind of get connected, I want to get to know you guys. I want you to share what's going on in your life. Share some personal things. Share you're bringing your kids and your young adult grandson on your board of directors. You're helping show them how you can give back and make a great career, take care of you and your family, and make an impact. So perfect timing is next week we're doing 2 connecting visits. We're doing a connecting visit in Phoenix, and we're doing a summit with one of our nonprofits in Albuquerque. So I want to walk you through, after hearing a lot of your questions and comments, and last week, some of you already have nonprofits. Some of you know that you want to live your purpose, and so you're looking at the nonprofit. We had a new mentoring student came in this week. She's an engineer. She works in a man's world. She coaches, she teaches, she trains. Very successful engineer. And she said it was about 3 months ago she started thinking, but what is my purpose? You know, what am I going to be remembered for? I've spent 30 years in engineering. Why aren't I seeing more women? What's happened with the young girls in math and science? How do we give them the tools and resources so that they can lead and live in a life like this? And so she said she started really putting spiritual energy with her, praying about it. And then she got this email, and she saw on Facebook an ad for the Power of Purpose. And she looked at it and said, this is it. This is it. This is how I can live my purpose. And she's now a mentoring student. And her vision, her purpose, her passion is to empower young girls going into the middle schools. Can you imagine what we're going to be able to do with her leading and her expertise? She stepped up. She knows that things have to change. So for her, some of the resources, the National Science Foundation, they grant money to nonprofit corporations. You know, hooking up, again, connecting. So all of you guys, if you're just starting and you're just beginning to set up your nonprofit, connecting is the key. And I talked about that some last week. So I thought, how perfect to lead right into the ones that ask questions that have existing nonprofits, and those of you that are really ready to take that step and you're going to set up your nonprofit corporation. It's all about connecting. And that's how all the different funding streams come in. So let me tell you what we're doing in Phoenix to share with you and on our happy hour together, our Purpose Friday, because it's so much fun. This last 2 weeks has been so fun preparing for this connecting visit, because we're talking to state leaders. We're talking to the gatekeepers that keep the gate locked for the state leaders, but we're getting in with them. I want to share some of that of how and where it's leading us. Our project in Phoenix is so beautiful. Their mission is to empower young adults aging out of foster care, to give them the supports and really the skills so they become leaders, right? A lot of these young kids, when this was brought to us, her project, she learned about it from working and volunteering at a homeless shelter. She said so many young kids would come through as they were fixing meals, and she would start learning their stories and building relationships and connecting. And majority of all the young adults she was talking to were involved in the foster care system. In her heart, she knew that she was led there to make a difference and bring these kids together. So she started looking into it. And it's such a high statistic. It's like 30% of our homeless population are young kids aging out of foster care. And don't quote me on that. I can't remember the exact putting a proposal together. But I, like, whoa. So as we built the momentum, right, we set up our nonprofit corporation. She had that. Then we did the program summary so she could start going out and connecting. Now she's got a huge business, so she's really, really busy. So those of you that are thinking, I already work 50 hours a week, this is enhancing what you're doing. You're not going to have to go a different direction and struggle with time. She set this up with us supporting her, did the program summary. So as she's working in her business, as she's meeting with leaders, as she's going to meetings at the Rotary Club with her business, she's handing out her program summary. Look what I'm doing. Look at my mission. Look at how we're making an impact economically and in people's lives and for our future, for our leaders. Many of these kids are coming out with, again, a handful of drugs that didn't quite fit in that box, you know, in the school, so they're labeled ADD, ADHD, whatever we want to label them. So we'll put them on Ritalin and all those kind of things to get them to conform, right, so they can be in that box. And so part of her program is she's partnered with a doctor who's very well-known, incredible, does neurofeedback. And so bringing that type of wellness, that type of healing, that modality to our future leaders and bringing them all together where they can be a peer support system. And in Arizona, there's a senator that carried legislation. It passed, the governor signed it, to provide tuition to community colleges for young kids aging out of foster care. So what we're doing strategically, he's on the connecting visit list because by us doing the supports with the fraternity house type living where the kids can come like they would in a college dorm, but yet have the supports around them in that house and be able to go to school with the supports with financial literacy, budgeting, neurofeedback, well-rounded, they're going to be more successful in college, which helps his program, his bill, reach the kind of success he intended. You see how that's working together? So as we sat now and got the word out, got the buzz going, last month we had a housing summit in Phoenix that her nonprofit was the lead on. We invited realtors, we invited CASA volunteers in the foster care program, we invited community members, we invited city councilors, we invited investors. So we all came together to start building that strategic funding plan that will bring this alive. So our next step is Monday and Tuesday to go knock on doors, to sit with leaders that have funding to start bringing the project together. So connecting. And you guys, what's been so neat is that those conversations, when you call the Arizona Homeless Coalition, they've got funding from HUD, right? They've got federal funding. They have rapid rehousing. That's a program that is funded federally that goes to the state level. That funding they can use to house people coming out of prison, to house young adults aging out of foster care, folks with disabilities. So getting involved with your homeless coalition is a phenomenal thing. Call your city planner. Find out who oversees your homeless coalition. They might call it a commission, a coalition, your homeless coordinator. So we called her, and she said, oh my gosh, my personal mission is working with young adults aging out of foster care. We did a program with our housing coalition a couple of years ago just for that. And now I've taken it to my church. Our church is leading. We have a committee of teams and helping go to other churches to set up support. Not only would I love to meet with you on the professional level, I want to see how I can get involved personally and how you can come in and we can together make this happen. That's pretty powerful. So we're meeting with her on Monday. She has HUD money. She has rapid rehousing money. She has a whole committee that meets. So we're going to learn how to be part of that committee. They do reports. They meet with legislators. They get state revenue funding. So again, we're connecting, okay? We called the governor's office. And because she has been connecting, she goes to Rotary Club. She's just so excited about her project. Because so much of it is your passion, your enthusiasm, because it's contagious. So you start sharing that what you're doing and the impact and the need, people gravitate. And so she met a gentleman. He came up to her and said, I want to meet with you. And he works in the governor's office. He's one of the high-level folks working in the governor's office. So we're meeting with him to see where he's going to open doors for us. For me, then, to be able to start calling folks and say, you know, another state agency, oh, we're meeting with the governor's office on Monday, and we're meeting with the senator that carried the legislation. It's a different level of credibility when you start connecting. Many of these agencies have pretty good gatekeepers. And so connect with the gatekeeper, get to know the gatekeeper, and I'm telling you, never discount them, never. They're the ones that can open so many doors for you. So we're meeting with the senator first, and then walking up to the Capitol to meet with the governor's personnel. And then we're meeting with the Homeless Coalition Director. Then we called USDA. U.S. Department of Agriculture has so much funding available for housing projects, for home modification, for renewable energy, for green efficiency. They're amazing. So their state office is in Phoenix. Call them. And again, the directors, the assistant to the director said, oh, I'll gather my whole team. She's bringing 5 people together that are going to meet with us Monday that oversee a nonprofit funding, that oversee the multifamily housing funding. She's bringing all of them together to go over all the programs with us when they're due, how competitive they are. Because those are the kind of things you want to know. For them to sit with us at the last meeting, we took a client to and say, you know, this one fits you perfect. It's so competitive. And they decreased the funding last year. So instead of us spend weeks on that proposal, we just got a $400 million increase on this funding that folks aren't accessing. How powerful is that with the way our lives work and time being such a precious resource? So we're going to meet with USDA. And they're bringing a whole team together to spend a couple of hours with us. And then another group we called. This is very important for all of you. Look up CDFI, Google or whatever your choice is, in your area. It stands for Community Development Financial Institution, okay? Incredible resource. They fund nonprofits, they fund affordable housing projects, they fund small businesses. They get their funding from the Department of Treasury and then partner with banks, VCs, venture capitalists. They have all kinds of ways they're bringing in funding. The one in Phoenix is called Multibank. Andy is amazing. The director, he started it years ago when CDFI just began, so he's very well known, has a lot of credibility. He funds nonprofits in the community. And he funded a piece of his funding went to the Ability Center for Independent Living. They have like a 60,000 square foot beautiful building that just opened last year. They're a nonprofit. They're a nonprofit that's part of the movement that I was in, that I so love, the independent living movement. And he provided some of the funding for that. So now to call him and say, we have a nonprofit that's working on a housing project with support. And he says, not only is he in a great place, he is now partnered with CDFI nationally that does $200 to $400 million a year in funding. Can you imagine sitting down now and meeting with him to see how we bring all this funding together? The funding from USDA, the funding from HUD, the funding, I mean, many of the projects, big projects we're talking, housing, 320 units, 200 units, 120 units. We've put together 8 different funding mechanisms to bring that whole project alive. So think about this huge housing project, like a big fraternity house, with a healing program, with financial literacy and all those supports. Think of all the different fundings that's going to take. So meeting with the leaders that have access to funding and that will believe in our project. You guys, just by calling the last 2 weeks, finding out the Homeless Coalition has a priority on young adults aging out of foster care. The director has a personal interest. The Rotary Club member works in the governor's office and has a passion. The Arizona Cardinals fund, and that's one of their initiatives. So once you get out there and start connecting, look at some of your Qualcomms, your Arizona Cardinals, your Home Depot. Find out in your area who are the big corporations. Do they have a foundation? Or what is their priority and their mission? Meet with the director, the CEO. What's his passion? What's her passion? And then be able to fit your project and side by side with them. So the next thing we did on that, you guys, we called the Arizona Housing Corporation. They get hundreds of millions of dollars. Your state housing, now it's different than your local housing authority. It's not the same thing. Your state housing corporation, and they're all called something different. Florida Housing Corporation, New Mexico's Mortgage Finance Authority, Arizona's Arizona Office on Housing, I think. Your state agency gets money from HUD. They get the low-income housing tax credits. Arizona has a 501c3 bond. We in New Mexico have a state housing trust fund that keeps growing and growing because of a bond we put together. So each of your states has some really incredible funding opportunities for you, even in the housing counseling area, in the first-time homebuyers programs, becoming a CHODO, CHDO. It stands for Community Development Housing Organization. Talk to your state housing. Talk to your city planning group. Who's the CHODO in our area? There are not many municipalities I've gone to that haven't said, wow, I can't believe you brought that up. We are in desperate need of another one. Because what happened years ago, at the federal level, we passed legislation that said, okay, all the home money, HOME, that comes every year to your local municipalities, and it's for first-time homeowners, down payment assistance originally. But with the market changing, with everything that happened, that money just sat there. And after a couple, 3 years, cities are having to send it back. And yet, when you've got the highest rate of foreclosures, you have a high rate of unemployment, and your city sends back $5 million, do they want that on the front page? No. People are hurting. And so we said, okay, all that money sitting there, along with CDBG, Community Development Block Grant, it's not being utilized. We need to set up some type of organization that can be kind of the hub that can take that home money, and we've set up financial literacy programs, we've set up housing counseling programs. We said, okay, we're going to call it CHODOs, Community Housing Development Organizations, right? And 15% of all home money must go to a CHODO. So do you see why it's so important to have CHODOs, your leaders, your city commissioners, your county commissioners? They've got all this money sitting in a pot of home money every year comes in, that 15% of that millions must go to a CHODO. In Las Vegas, they said, look, our city council is pressuring us because they said we need to have some competition to where we can send it out and 2 or 3 CHODOs apply on it for it. So you've got some amazing opportunities for you right now, and it's all about connecting. When you get out there, and you guys, they're folks just like us. You know, it's amazing to me. I'll meet with the most awesome entrepreneurs that have built multi-million-dollar businesses or done a $50 million real estate project and never met with the state legislator, never met with the city councilor. So they're folks just like us, and they're public servants. They want to make the community better. They're there because they want to bring resources back home. And you come in with a common sense solution, they're going to be your advocates. They're going to carry that banner. They're going to talk about you and your organization in rooms that you're not in. And that's how that momentum starts. So that's what's happening right now as we talk with Arizona. We're going to go in and connect. We're going to meet with state agencies. We're going to meet with the governor's office. We're going to meet with the state senator, USDA, a city's councilor. So and we're going to meet with some more nonprofits, 2 nonprofits that are working with foster kids. We want to sit down with them and find out where is the gap. Once they become 21, once they leave the system, where's the gap? How can we help? How can we collaborate? Because in the nonprofit world, we collaborate. In the for-profit, a lot of times we compete, right? It's competition. In the nonprofit world, we want to sit down with the other nonprofits and see how we can collaborate. Very powerful to submit a proposal to the Arizona Cardinals and their foundation and say, we are collaborating with 2 other nonprofits doing programs for foster kids. They're doing this part in the program. We're going to do the housing piece. We're going to leverage your funding. So a $1 million project, we're only requesting $250,000 from you, and here's the other 2 sources we have. Funders love to see that they're a part of a bigger program and that their money is going to go to such a bigger thing. So that's what we're doing in Phoenix. And you guys, I'm checking the time because I guess you guys can tell by now. Give me a microphone, give me time, and man, I can do some talking. 30-some years doing this, and the synergy that's happening right now, the bold step we took to launch at least 10,000 nonprofits, the bold step you're taking to say it's time. I'm living my purpose. I'm looking at my legacy. I'm a young entrepreneur, doing well financially. There's got to be more to life. I want to make impact. Wherever you are in life, together, I want to share what's happening with us so you can take some of these steps. So that's one project and I'll update you next Friday what happens Monday and Tuesday. We're so excited about it. And then we're coming back here Wednesday. Our whole team is coming into Albuquerque, New Mexico. And on Thursday, we're doing a summit. One of our nonprofits here in Albuquerque, their mission is to transform the paradigm of how we age, live, and die. Very beautiful set of the energy healers, integrative medicine docs, hospice nurse that's known nationally. They've come together to start talking about first creating that conversation. For me, so powerful in that I went through that with my dad. I sat with him for 30 days in intensive care where he tried everything they did. And to see him walk in, have a little bit of a cough and not know what's going on, and to end up in the ICU because the medicine causes kidneys to shut down. When his kidneys shut down, they had to put him on dialysis. I mean, it went on and on. To be able to honor my dad when they wanted to put in the respirator to see what was going on with his lungs, and my dad said, I'll give it all I got, but I'm very at peace, and when it's time, I'll let you know. Either way, right? Because he had no voice now. And because we've gotten through so much of our journey with humor, my dad was the most charismatic, loving, giving, boisterous, funny person I've ever been around. And when I was in ICU and coming out of my coma and trying to eat for the first time, there was no sympathy from my dad. It was that little kick in the rear and get you going, and then he would leave, and him and my mom cried, but he never showed me that. He fed me my first shake, right? And he knew I couldn't swallow yet. And I saw tubes everywhere, and they'd set me up in a chair, lifted me up and set me up, and it hurt so bad because I really wasn't even sitting up yet. And Tracy, my husband, I was telling you, he was with me 24/7, and so he left for like an hour, and he told my dad, now, you know, she can't swallow. You're gonna have to take it really, really slow, and they're gonna bring in this shamrock shake with nutrients, right? So they leave. My dad looks at me and grins real big, and he knows, man, anything I can get, like a piece of ice, anything, it's like my mouth is so dried out. So we're just kind of looking at each other. So they bring in the shake, and Dad just gives it to me, and he just starts just putting it up my mouth, and it's going down my chin and down my gown and all over the floor, and he's still doing it, and I can't do anything. And he afterwards he looks at the floor, and he goes, whoops, I guess I had a little accident there. And Tracy walks in and is like, my dad was always, always just out there with humor. And so I got to be his voice. So I sat there and I said, oh, now it's my turn to be your voice. And so I got to spend 30 days with him by his bed 24/7, feeling like a little kid, just continually asking questions. And it was beautiful. It was peaceful because Dad was in control of his destiny. And Dad was able to direct where he wanted to go. And I was open with that conversation. And that's what this nonprofit is doing. They're opening up that conversation, and they're building an intentional community that encompasses all, that gives us a place to where we can age in place and we can talk about death and dying in a beautiful way and the transition. And, you know, it was when my dad when I was able to sit there by him and just share things with him that, you know, he was so alert. I mean, he would roll his eyes, or he would wink, or he knew everything that was going on. And finally I got him aboard like they did me, and I would start pointing to the words. He would try to mouth things, and we couldn't understand, and he'd roll his eyes. He'd get frustrated. And I said, Dad, now you know how I felt. I thought you guys were a bunch of dummies. You couldn't understand nothing. So one day I was sitting with Dad, and I knew he had more and more bags on his Christmas tree because they would do this, and then it would cause platelets to lower. So they'd have to give him another bag of something, and I knew he was getting tired. And I said, Dad, do you believe in guardian angels? And he kind of shook his head. And I said, Dad, will you be my guardian angel? It was that beautiful conversation without grief, without, and I said, Dad, will you be mine? I was being so sentimental. And Dad looked at me and he rolled his eyes. And I go, wait a minute. Are you saying I'd be too much work? And he nods his head as big as he can. To have that kind of time with him, where some of my other loved ones, I've watched them end up with feeding tubes and tracheotomies and so hard and such a struggle, and to watch them, and it wasn't the same kind of peacefulness. So here's this nonprofit that's brought the best of the best together: integrated medicine docs, naturopathic docs, medical docs, healers. The biggest thing, they brought people together that are going through that. A man that's been in a wheelchair for 50 years and has lost all sorts of independence, and his choice now is to go into a nursing home. Letting him talk through what his choice is, where he wants to go. So as we started this, planning for this summit, it's different than a housing summit with an agenda, a call to order. And they built this beautiful invitation that says, the first conversation, welcome to the first conversation. And it's all about honoring and just a beautiful way of bringing people together. But in that gathering are investors, our state leaders, our state housing agency folks, funders. So we're bringing all the folks together to hear from the folks that are in this place right now and what they're co-creating. It's a really neat thing. Let me tell you how this energy works. I talked to you guys about connecting. This just happened to me. And this is what I love about walking the walk every day. I can share not only what's happening with our mentoring students, but I'm experiencing it. So this is happening in New Mexico. I'm so blessed. I'm so excited about getting to come home. These are where all my connections are. I worked with the legislature for 20 years. I've created so many programs with their help. And to be home now, to connect with them again. So I ran into the mall Monday. I'm not a shopper. I don't like that kind of stuff. So I had my sweats on, ran in for something I needed, was running out. And I saw this lady that I thought was someone I'd worked with 10 years ago. I started to just keep on walking, and I thought about you guys. And I thought about walking the walk. And I thought, here I am teaching them to connect, and now what am I doing? So I turned right back around, chased her down, and said, Debbie. And she turned around and she goes, Sherry. Because she was the director of a state agency, our secretary. When I talk about secretaries, they're not someone that answers the phone like your administrative assistant in the old days. They're cabinet level. Secretaries of agency on aging, secretaries of state housing, secretaries, those are cabinet level in the governors, okay? They're appointed by the governor. They're part of the governor's team. So Debbie had been secretary of agency on aging when I had my nonprofit here. She funded many of my projects. Our elder care center that was so successful. We did the most beautiful elder care center for elders who now were getting supports at home. You know, last week I talked about the program we've created called the Personal Care Option, where we got folks out of nursing homes and they lived at home in their communities where they wanted, and that money that was in the nursing home, that money was used for them to hire and fire their own attendant, their nieces, their mothers, their cousins, their neighbors, right? And they came in their home and took care of their needs. Well, then we started saying, okay, now their kids, like our age, want to go back to work. So what could we do during the daytime for the elders? So we coordinated, we collaborated with the senior center. Every one of your communities has a senior center. So we got together with them, and we did our elder care program in the senior center. And what was so awesome, you guys, the nonprofit world, you work on your business, not in your business. So working with Debbie, Secretary Armstrong, I think we got 200,000, maybe, yeah, 200,000 for the project. And in the budget, I said, okay, we need a project director, we need recreational therapists, we need 2 assistants, we need administrative assistant. You write in, you visualize your project, what's it going to take to bring it alive? And we're bringing 20 elders to start with. And then hired the program director, and I'm on looking at other projects. I didn't go see that project until the ribbon cutting because I had a team. I had a team that had been hired that then did all the details and built all of it and built the assessment forms and built the intake forms and all that, okay? So I walked into the senior center, and there's this beautiful big screen TV, there's arts and crafts, they're doing leather, they're doing beading, they're doing all kinds of things. And I was like, As I sat there and met all of them and knew most of them because we helped get them out of nursing homes, I'm looking at Joe. He's 50 years as a judge in the juvenile justice system on the reservation. 50 years. He knew how to reach these kids that were going to gangs and meth and all the things that had really taken over our youth on the reservation. And I thought, wow, I'd love for them to hear his wisdom. You know, the respect with the Native Americans for their elders is something we need to pay attention to and learn from. So having an elder talk to these young kids that are so, you know, they're in gangs and they got tattoos from the neck down, and let the elders reach them. And then there's Mary and there's Betty and, you know, 88, 92. And I sat there and listened to them. They shared stories. You know, it was a time for them to be able to bring out their wisdom. And I thought, interesting. Let's have our youth part of that. So we went to this high school to their, what do they call it? The kids that are hard to deal with. You know, they say they put them at risk kids. They had a program. So we said, okay, what about doing a field trip and having at-risk kids come to the senior center, to the elder care program once a week for 2 hours, and let's see what happens. And with the first month, man, these kids walk in and they're so hardened and they got tattoos everywhere, and you know, it's like, yeah, try to tell me something. And to watch them melt and to watch them just lean in as Joe, the judge that's been on the reservation, 92, talking to him. And after a month, the teachers are calling going, wow, they're progressing. I mean, at least they show up on every Thursday, right? So that became a program of its own that got funding from another department. So here is Secretary Armstrong, who knows what we've done throughout the years and knows the impact. We sat in her office the morning that we were waiting for the governor to sign Money Follows the Person. She was texting him, emailing him, you know, going, well, he still hasn't. And she's been intimately involved. 10 years fast forward, I heard now that she's now a state legislator. People keep telling me I need to connect with her. But I'm so busy being all over the place with you guys in Phoenix and Florida and Las Vegas and making things happen. I haven't had the opportunity to come home until now. So there I am with her going, oh my gosh, I hear you're a state legislator now. And she said, I love it. She said, I hear you're doing some great things. It was so warm. And I told her about the meeting next Thursday and what we were doing and creating this intentional community. And New Mexico loves to lead the way and talking about aquaponics and how we could create jobs. And she said, I want to be there. And then she looked at her calendar and she said, I can rearrange this, send me the invitation, I'll be there. And she said, and you know what? This is exactly what I want to be able to take to the legislative committees that I chair and I sit on. An affordable housing committee. Guys, that's not a coincidence. That's not a coincidence. When you're on the right path, when you're living your purpose, when you're making an impact, those are the kind of doors that open. So our meeting Thursday, I can't wait to share what happens Monday and Tuesday in Phoenix, and then share what happens Thursday. And what we have Thursday and Friday is we're doing a mastermind then Friday. Because we are gathering our teams coming in from all over the country, we have our lead mentor for charitable giving of real estate. He's here leading the nation. He's working with UNICEF, George Washington University. I think 2 other universities he just told us about. And he's our lead mentor. His main priority, his love, his belief, his passion is with the power of purpose. He knows every one of you guys. He can help bring funding in through charitable giving of real estate. We sat down, Derek and I, and sat down with him this week and walked through a whole deal that was just done with a vacant property in Albuquerque, commercial building. They tried a restaurant and all kinds of things in it, did a bargain sale on it. Within 30 days, was able to get $116,000 to a nonprofit, help the investor that had the property sitting there vacant that was paying every year on it. It was a win-win-win. And he said, I know we can do this for the small emerging nonprofits in a bigger way now. So we're going to sit down Friday with him, with our team, the rest of our team, and other leaders with brain power. A realtor that's a senior designated realtor is known nationally. He's on the National Realty Association that does webinars. He was just in New York Times and USA Today in a front page article, and he was quoted when they were talking about senior housing. So bringing folks together like that, you guys, we're doing that so that we can build on and keep bringing you the resources and tools to get you the funding so that you can go out and make a bigger impact. Let go of that emotional space that's taken up when you're worried about finances and how are you going to take care of you and your family. Now you're going to have that at the same time making an impact. So it's just such a blessing to be able to share Purpose Fridays with you guys, and each week share some things that are going on with us, and keep the emails coming to us. Keep the emails coming to info@thepowerpurpose.com so that we can share in the conversation with you on the next Friday. So I'm going to be bringing in friends, mentors, colleagues, partners in crime. I'll be bringing in different folks on the Fridays now with me to share some of their wisdom, some of their walk, and some of our walks together. So Derek, I know this time I told you I would not take 2 hours, right? So it's been a little over an hour. So I'd love to open up with some Q&A now.
Okay, let's do that. Let's open the floor up for our live Q&A segment. So once again, you can enter your question on the control panel, submit it, send it over, and we'll start answering anything pertaining to nonprofit strategy, tips, or some things that you're working on right now. Maybe you need help with, questions with. So let's go ahead and start sending those over, and we'll begin right now. And of course, we have to begin our Q&A section with a comment saying, "Hi Sherry, I love you," from Power Purpose Mentoring student superstar Karina Benson.
Oh, Karina, I love you too. You guys, Karina, I'm going to share about you. Karina came to us, and filled out the mentoring application. We interviewed, and we knew right away. Karina has a heart of gold, but she's also got brilliant mind. She's a doctor and worked with a large hospital for many years, and wanted to go back home to the Philippines and build a campus. And when she shared the poster and I think is written on the paper of her vision and what she wanted inscribed in it, like when you go to Mayo Hospital and they have things inscribed in their mission and her vision, so pure, and her business mind is so strong to carry it through. Not only did we work on that together, what we worked on is also she has a nonprofit here in the United States to work on a child care center. She really, really has the heart where she sees where the needs are. She would go in and do a lot of education training for some other nonprofits, and she was working with a shelter with women who wanted to go back to work, who wanted to look for employment opportunities, gone through bad situations, but childcare is stopping them now. And so Karina stepped up, she took action and said, you know what, I want to do this in a way that we bring a different type of education to our young kids. You know, let's start them early, teaching them about nutrition and the importance, and bring in healthy foods. And so it's just been such a great journey with you, Karina. And I look so forward. She's back in the United States, been in the Philippines during our mentoring time together. And Karina, I look so forward when we're going to get to be together in probably the next 3 or 4 weeks. So I love having you on, Karina, and I love where your heart is and how you've stepped up to make a difference.
Great. Thank you, Karina. Next question coming in from Anna. Could you say something about the creation of a church in conjunction with a nonprofit? Are there any advantages?
That's really cool because I'm working with a guy right now. He's a manager at Verizon. He's also a pastor, and his passion is to full-time go into the church work. And so what we're doing, they have the church set up. They do a lot of great things. They have a food pantry. They're growing their resources. They're doing an after-school program. They're going to send the kids home with backpacks with food in it for the weekend, you know, healthy food. So what we're doing is we're building a separate nonprofit corporation that's going to work with the church. So him and his wife will be co-directors of their nonprofit, and they'll be providing services to the church. Now, if you want to do the projects within the church, there's a terrific faith-based initiative. So go to your governor's office. I talked about it last week some. Call him, ask for the public relations or information director, whoever, and ask about your state faith-based initiative office. Where is it? Who's the contact? Who oversees it? And call them, and they can help lead you to funding resources within the faith-based initiative. So you can go a couple of different ways. You can do it within your church. We're working with about 3 of them now that we're setting up a separate nonprofit corporation that's working directly with the church.
Yes, and Anna had just a follow-up saying the church would be non-denominational, not particularly about religion, but about religiousness. It would enable sustainable community with all that pertains to that. So that sounds great. And since we mentioned also Karina, I want to just also recognize Anisha Smith, who just newly joined the
Oh, yay.
retreat program that's on with us, and some alumni, just to recognize you guys as well, with Bill Loving, James Rink, yes, James Rink, and Zeno Perry. So we're glad to have you guys on and have you join.
Hey guys, and Anisha, I'm gonna talk some more about, because I can't wait to keep sharing them where we're headed, where we're going. But Anisha also not only empowering young girls and giving them the tools, the confidence, what they need, but she's going much farther than that. It's not just about the education and learning math and science. It's well-rounded, body, physical, health, spiritual. So Anisha has incorporated the spiritual piece, which is critical. I mean, it's not about religion, like you said, Anna. It's about that personal spiritual connection. And so Anisha is incorporating that into her whole project, and very powerful. You know, take tips like that as you're thinking through your project, being well-rounded. Just like Heidi, you know, in Phoenix, it's not just about getting housing for these kids. Let's look at some different modalities of healing. Let's look at, you know, kids that they have PTSD, they have traumatic brain injury, they've been through a lot, and you know, there are different ways versus just the medical model, giving them a handful of drugs and kind of zombieing them. Let's bring neurofeedback in. Let's try some different modalities, and let's look at not only that, but the spiritual part of having that belief and that faith. And it's carried all of us so far. When we have faith, we're fearless, and we believe, we know that the doors are going to open where they need to. So let's teach these young kids that.
Yes, Patrick Ryan, just talking a little bit about more about our program. So we'll put you in touch with our office.
Oh, you know what, Derek? We got quite a few emails about that. And last week there were questions on that, on the mentoring. And you guys, if you're interested, because this is just, we're going to make our Fridays just fun and content. But if you're interested, go to thepowerpurpose.com/mentoring and fill out the application. Because we're only able to work with a certain few on the one-on-one. So go there and fill out an application, and we'll get with you on an individual basis.
Yeah, that'd be the best way to get in touch with us, as well as just through our normal office, which you have. And Barbara Calloway had a quick comment saying that purple is the color of royalty and also of service.
I love it. See, what I've always loved it. That's why my dad raised me to know that a life of service is where you're rewarded. And my dad lived a life of giving, him and my mom, and had a business at 42, and they were blessed. I know, there's no doubt. An international company came in, and everywhere they went to try to get business, they kept saying my dad was taking care of them, and they came and approached my dad to sell it, and he'd never thought about selling it. Only had a few years, and made him such an offer that him and my mom, and she was 30-something, they retired for life and spent the rest of their life doing mission work, going and building boys ranches and so that I learned firsthand from a mentor that walked the walk that the more you give, the more you get. And I watched that happen with them. So purple, I'm telling you, that's the way I was raised.
It all makes sense now. All that purple. Okay.
Derek grew up with a house full of purple.
Oh, sure did. I have a whole closet full of purple shirts too, from birthdays and Christmas too. Next question, just from Joe Lynch, asking more on the technical side. Here's a replay from last week. Get to yes. So we'll have a number of ways that we are going to post these. Obviously, we do record them, and we're going to put up in a number of ways for you to access. For those that can attend, or you did want to go back through it and listen once again. Also, this is again now a weekly series too, so perhaps you'd like to start joining us Friday afternoons, and there's a time you can't. That's why we record them, so we'll be posting them on our YouTube channel, on our website, and then elsewhere for people to access that.
Okay, that even what's that word? Validates more, you guys. Join me, and I think anybody on there with me has to be on the webcam. Come on, if we're gonna post and record them. And last week, you guys, I could not even see in the webcam because once I put the slide up, I couldn't see. So I had nothing on the wall. It was boring. Probably my face is right in the camera because we're not as savvy on this technology as these young kids are. So, Derek, I think you need to be on the webcam.
Oh boy, baby steps, one step at a time. Okay, and then Julian followed up with the question in addition to that, saying that she has a 501c3 that had never developed any projects in as of yet. It seems I don't know where to start. Like I do need funding first. My programs are just ideas at this point. How can I get started? And that is the tlcinternationalfoundation.org.
Oh man, I'll tell you how to get started is just create a program summary. We one of the tools you guys we set up too is we have nonprofit university, and we have a curriculum, and then we have a faculty and stuff. And so going through that curriculum with the folks involved in nonprofit university, what some of the biggest successes we've seen they've shared is when they get to phase 2, when you're set up, perfect, you've got your nonprofit 501c3, they build a program summary. And again, it's just a picture of their vision. Like you, they haven't done it, but they do that one page with their logo and the cool thing and their mission statement, and then say, here's the programs we're building: affordable housing, financial literacy, entrepreneurial training, whatever. They've got a few bullets and their contact information, and they just start passing it out to people. And that's what's drawing in, like I told you Monday and Tuesday, we're meeting with the governor's office. That's because she was out connecting and met the gentleman at the Rotary Club. So again, just the next step for you, build a program summary that you can start sharing. You don't have to have funding yet. That's how you're going to get funding. You're going to start letting people see that. I used an example last week. One of our students just started doing that, and her mechanic, when he looked at it, goes, well, I'm on the city council. I can get you on the agenda for the city council. We're just talking about funding for affordable housing. So go out and connect. That's how you start the funding. A lot of folks do it backwards that aren't successful. They go ahead and go to grants, Google grants and find 8 billion of them and start putting together all these proposals, send them out in the thin air, and they never get anything. You got to connect with people, and that's how the funding happens.
Okay, great. Next question from Pam Washington. Hi, Pam. Can you give me a general idea on how much it should cost to set up a 501c3 in Nevada? I know we've set up at least 3 in Las Vegas, another one in Reno. So you want to visit your Secretary of State website in Nevada, and I believe at that time it was $50. And Nevada also had, in addition to that, a few weeks processing time, and they also recently had offered a 24 and 48-hour expedite for additional.
Yep. And I think our last one we just did was online, where we got like immediate
Yep.
set up, wasn't it, Derek?
Yeah, you can apply online, and they have the form where you just simply fill in the billing information, and it's handled online as well. But it's going to be, as you can see, very affordable compared to for-profit entities, corporations, LLCs, and it seems it's a very we've used Nevada System a number of times, both online last time and offline, and they're very good. You can set up quick and for a very easy fee.
And I want to add something on this, because I know a lot of you are new and you're just now getting in the flow of getting your nonprofit set up. So I want to tell you that one of the number one questions that come in is, does it matter where I set up my nonprofit? Because like your LLC or S Corp, C Corp, like Wyoming or Nevada, or if you're doing it LLP, Delaware, because we want to do a Delaware series, or so you really look through what the states have. In a nonprofit corporation, I highly, highly, highly recommend you do it in the state you're going to be doing the services. Okay, there's no benefit to doing it in Wyoming, or because you don't pay taxes on that entity. And you want to be able to go to your state legislator and say, look, I'm a nonprofit corporation here in Delaware or Wyoming, or so don't, and be careful when you go to other entities to set up nonprofits, other businesses. We've had so many come to us that had a corporation that does entities, set it up, right? But then when they go to get their 501c3, they do not have the language that's mandated by IRS. They don't have the purpose clauses. So be very, very careful. Let us work with you and ask questions during these Purpose Fridays, because what happens is people get their state corporation, yay, got it set up, and then go to file with IRS, and it gets kicked back. Nope, you got to add these clauses. Then they got to go back to the state, amend their filing. It's months later, and it's a whole bunch of hurdles. So I really want to encourage and give you the tools to set it up right the first time, and do it in your state.
Yeah, then Pam followed up with saying, I already have an LLC, just need to form a nonprofit, maybe as a DBA?
No.
Yeah,
and
right.
that,
You don't want to do that.
Yeah, great. I'm so glad you brought that up, Pam. Don't use the same name as your for-profit or a DBA or any of that. What happened, one of our students that came to us already had set up her nonprofit, and she used the same name as a for-profit. So we had to go into the state and get permission with her LLC to let her use the same name. We got all that cleared up. But what happened when IRS, when we went to get tax exemption, they looked on the website and they came back with like 30 questions that we didn't need, that it slowed up the time. We got it approved, but they were like, well, how's this going to, why is you always just the same thing with for-profit, and what are the differences, and how's your for-profit going to benefit? And I mean, it took us, so I would definitely stay away from that. I mean, she's very successful, doing great things now, but it was just a bunch of hurdles that we didn't need to have to go through. So just come up with a different name, and do not combine your corporations at all, because what we want to do, one of our Fridays together, I'll talk about the beauty of bringing the for-profit and nonprofit together. So Pam, we'll work on how your two corporations can work together, but you've got to build firewalls. You don't want collusion. You don't want it to look like your nonprofit is doing nothing but feeding your for-profit. We've got to build firewalls in that. And when you build firewalls, it's fantastic. Both corporations grow tremendously, and you make a bigger impact in your community. So we'll spend, and that's another thing, Derek, I was going to ask everyone, send us, you guys, ideas of what do you want to learn more about? What do you want to talk about? What do you need more guidance on? And so we can kind of gear some of the Fridays on that. Because I know that some of the comments I got last week when we looked were, well, how do you work a for-profit and nonprofit together? So we're putting that on the schedule for one of our Fridays.
Okay, and then next from Karina. Started working with the Women's Shelter yesterday. Lectured on time management aside from child development and nutrition. There's really a need for child care center to cater to these women so they can find a job to help them back on their feet. Working on a business plan based on what Tracy discussed with me in the past.
Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah. Oh, Karina, that's so awesome. And that you're there now is going to make such a difference. And I talked to a couple people in North Las Vegas. We have a real big opportunity, Karina. So we've got some, again, like we're doing in Phoenix, that's what we want to come do with you, Karina, is we're going to start knocking on doors and meeting with some of the leaders with the funding, and we'll start putting that together.
Yeah, then Karina followed up with, are you planning on having a date when we can connect and interact as a group of nonprofits?
Definitely. Definitely. And that's kind of what we're doing, Karina, now with this and with Nonprofit University on. We're now in our mentoring students. We're looking at now putting different masterminds together, like childcare, wellness centers. We have a lot of folks coming in, Karina, on the healing side. We just had a new mentoring student come in last week. She's been an RN for 30 years, and she's also an energy healer. And she sees the integrative medicine as being so critical to where this country's going. And we're setting up her nonprofit around that. University of New Mexico, we've just met with them, working with their School of Integrative Medicine. So again, gathering all the groups. We have another group in Ojai that's doing, they have a nonprofit. Their whole Healing Wellness Center is built in a nonprofit corporation. And so bring all of you guys together and start masterminded. We have a lot of veterans projects going on right now. So we're starting to bring the mentoring students, Nonprofit University, and then to our Purpose Fridays, start bringing folks together like-minded, and then we'll start doing separate masterminds to start building our movements. Are you still there, Derek?
Yes, next question is from Uma. Thank you so much.
Right.
Thank you so much for your email, Uma. That was a great email. Following last Friday's meeting. Uma says, I am applying for the executive director position of our wellness center to our board of directors on July 3rd. If I'm the executive director, can any of my family members be on the board?
Oh, definitely, definitely. And what you'll need to do, Uma, is just, we've had, listen to this one, you guys, talk about a for-profit, nonprofit, and Uma having family involved. We had a nonprofit housing counseling center, and the couple owned a for-profit, nationally known short-stop company. So the nonprofit's going to do housing counseling and that, and here they have a for-profit that we can refer to, and it's like, Now him and his wife own the for-profit, the LLC, and they also are on, his wife and his cousin are on the board of directors, and he's executive director, much like you, Uma. And IRS was going, oh my gosh, look at asking, and we're very transparent. We want all of it out up front. We want everything above board. And we just went through the questions with him. And why was his wife and why are they all on the board? Because she has expertise in marketing. She has a marketing degree. She can bring the outreach to the nonprofit to a whole different level. So what you want to do, Umi, is make sure that you can look at what is their expertise. It's your husband, it's your daughter, it's your whoever. What is their expertise? And on the board bio, just write in what their expertise is. So yeah, we all the time we have family members on the board with another family as executive director.
Next question from Frenchie. Hi, Frenchie. Please repeat the name for CDFI, the acronym.
Community Development Financial Institution. You guys, that's critical for every one of you. I don't know, we started them, gosh, I don't know, my age, 30 years ago. It was Department of Treasury. We really built banks for the unbankable. That's what it started out. You know, folks with disabilities, folks who had no credit history, no employment, but you know, how did they get back into life now? And so, becoming a CDFI to become that banking, that using microloans. We did a lot of projects on microloans. You know, it's so incredible how a small amount of money can, and the support can empower people to grow a business that is still going. So we set up the CDFIs with Department of Treasury for years. They were, you know, cool little, like their own little entity, their own little bank. But back in 2006, 7, 8, when everything was happening, and then we did the bank bailout, and it still wasn't working, money still wasn't moving. Congress gave a 300% increase to the technical assistance funding for CDFIs. So right away you're like, we can see the trend. We see where we're not going to put as much money into fixing a system that's broken. Let's beef up a system that's been working. And then as we evolved into looking at new ways to do projects and create money for our, like my mom gets no interest, used to live on investing in municipal bonds. Now we're looking at social impact bonds. Well, those are running through CDFIs. And then we came up with new market tax credits, incredible way to create employment centers, and those ran through CDFIs. So if watching the trend, and that's what we do to keep you guys on the cutting edge, is we're involved at the federal level, and we're watching this, we're a part of this, we're at meetings, we're sitting with them, we're going, new market tax credits are now through CDFI, social impact bonds, 300% increase. We better get all of our students involved in CDFIs. So find one in your area, go meet with them. We're working with the CDFI that has a disability fund. One of our projects in Tennessee, one of the most beautiful projects I've seen, been a part of. I started out with wanting to help young adults with autism because it impacted their family personally, you know, grandsons. And so let's look at supports, housing. Well, then it grew into what about an employment opportunity? Well, what about creating aquaponics? Well, then we should make it a community. So it ended up with the most beautiful architectural rendering of a community where all the houses face the inside. There's grass, beautiful grass, and the building community, and it's seniors, it's veterans, it's young adults with autism. And the aquaponics will create employment opportunities. So all of that is coming together now with charitable giving of real estate, the most beautiful piece of land she wanted. The gentleman met with the lead of our company, Chase, and after he met with Chase, he said, I get it. And so they put the letter of intent together, and now she has the land. And again, that's all a part of going out there and connecting and helping bring the project to life. In fact, I think, Derek, when you and I met with Chase, I think Chase was going to listen in. So, Chase, if you're with us, hi. And you guys, Chase, Derek and I are going to bring Chase on a call with us too. And I know Derek has a mastermind with folks who are part of the Power Free Real Estate. They get together once a month. There's a lot of momentum happening on that. So Chase is coming in different ways on the education. So we'll bring him in on a Purpose Friday, Derek. So Chase, get ready. We're going to have happy hour together.
Nice question from Jolynn saying, there's already a well-established housing authority here that gets big funding. What would I be able to contribute to get funding?
Now, is that a housing authority at the local level?
Yeah, essentially that's what it appears. She's trying to say, Jolynn, if you want to punch in and elaborate, but we're assuming it's a local housing authority in her community.
Hey, I'm gonna have to move around a little bit. I just noticed my phone, my computer's dying.
But yes, so to speak, that she has a housing authority in her area, in her community, gets a lot of funding. So saying, what would she be able to contribute to get funding? It's more along the lines of
well, usually
accessing it.
Well, usually the housing authority, if they grant out funding, so it's not so much that they have all the funding. They get funding to grant out to others. So I would go sit with them. I would find out what they're about, what are their priorities, what are their initiatives.
Right.
You know, you go sit down with them first and find out, what do they fund? Do they grant out funding? Do they need help with projects and that kind of thing?
Okay. Yeah, that'll be the first step, is just connecting with them and seeing what's available, and then constructing a project around it that fits, what their area of focus. Next, Stan's got a question here. Lots of good ideas today. Is it possible to spread yourself too thin?
For me, I'd say no, because when you build these projects, you have you build the budget to go with it. So for me, I had, probably 20 projects going at one time, but I was always working on the business, not in it. So it's very different than the for-profit where you just run around trying to do all these things. You've got a budget. So say this housing authority she just talked about, you're going to go in and find out, okay, they need someone to do housing counseling. Okay, we'll submit a proposal with a budget for $100,000. We're going to serve 25 people, and we're going to bring in a program director and 2 housing counselors. And so you've submitted a budget with $100,000 that includes rent, utilities, all the things it takes for a corporation, plus a couple of people to run the program. So you submit that to them, and then you get that funding, you hire them, and you've got that CFO, whoever, that is going to manage the financials. And every month, it's so great versus a for-profit. Every month, you're getting $10,000 a month or whatever, and $5,000 going to salaries, $2,000 to rent, $1,000 to office supplies. That money's coming in every month, and it's the same amount of money. So you can build a system around that. And that's the power of the nonprofit corporation, is you're building systems continually. So in a nonprofit, you've got the funding to come in, and you bring the project together. It's not like you have a bunch of different ones. Like for housing, we're working on one now that it's housing with energy efficiency with a community center in the middle of it. So it's a whole bunch of different projects, but it's one big project put together. So we'll do a project on the housing. We're working on the funding with that. And then we're working with USDA on the funding to make sure their energy efficiency, and we've been talking about a renewable energy project. So you can do a bunch of different projects to incorporate into one overall project. And as far as spreading too thin, when you really get out there and connect with the people you're serving, when my last nonprofit working with folks with disabilities, and I am one and I'm proud, just really seeing what the needs were. We started out with a very simple peer support program, just gathering us together, paying folks 5 hours a week, to go to the rehab center and start talking to folks that are newly injured. Start doing forums at the community college to bring in interns and start talking about what our needs are. And from there we grew into, okay, life skills training. A lot of these young guys with traumatic brain injury, learning how to live again in the community. And then it was like, now they want to go and we need employment. So then build an employment program. So you can build the programs as you get out there and find the need.
Yeah, then Stan wanted to follow up here and says that he wants to buy a building in town for a community center. Is there a disadvantage to having my name on it?
No, not at all. Not at all. We have several nonprofit corporations that, in fact, one that just built a community center for youth, and their nonprofit has a different name, but they named, because they brought an investor, we did a public-private partnership, and the investor were bringing the investor ROI through a revenue share. And on that building, part of the investor was we put the investor's name on the building because it was part of his legacy. So not at all. Now, to name a corporation after your name is sometimes more not as good a direction to go. But as far as a broad project, I worked with a nonprofit in San Juan County that did transitional living for young kids who'd been in foster care, who went in foster care, homeless, and they went to the community leaders and got donations. And it's so neat because we walk into a house, our leadership class, with 12 rooms, and it's so beautiful. And each room has a different name on it from the family that donated. So they named the rooms after them. So there's a lot of ways you can come in and help with that legacy piece and at the same time get the investment opportunity.
Okay, next, Ernest has a question saying, when are we coming to California to train us?
I love that. We talked about that last week, you guys, that we're getting ready to do a live training. We're getting ready to just bring hundreds of us together, and we want you guys to vote on the location. We've heard Dallas, we've heard California, we've heard, of course, just from me, Albuquerque, San Diego. Where else have we heard, Derek? Oh, not Boca Raton, Palm Beach. I got a request from Palm Beach. So it's either Florida or California or Albuquerque. Oh, Denver. That's another one we just got. So yeah, guys, send in your votes, and let's see where we're going to do our next training. Yeah, we're getting ready to do it.
That's what we discussed on last week's call as well, that we'll lead up to the students and put up a voting system for everyone to vote on somewhere that's East Coast or West Coast.
Yeah.
Pam Washington had another question about, she's interested in doing something for veterans in Las Vegas, maybe rehab some properties, to provide affordable housing and a holistic wellness center. Thoughts on that? A couple of things, I'll chime in real quick, and then you can follow up there, Mom, is that we actually have a involving Las Vegas in general with nonprofits and projects, especially those that are geared with veterans and housing for homeless. We've done actually quite a bit there. I know a lot of organizations there, including a couple organizations on the ground there right now, working with a lot of the veterans agencies. And we've done, and I'll let you talk about this, Mom. We've done some big fundraising drives and put some events together with some concerts and Vegas entertainers coming out that we actually put together last summer. And Sherry, Mom, and Tracy were also there in attendance to help coordinate that.
Yeah, that was fun. The the whole community of Las Vegas was just so. There was hundreds of people there, Derek, at the ribbon cutting, and we gave away how many hundreds of thousands of bottles of water. We were donated. A water company came in and brought truckloads full of water for us that we could donate. It was awesome, wasn't it? Awesome. You know, and the lot of great things you can do in Vegas. For all of you guys, really go and ask about the VASH vouchers. VASH. They're like Section 8 vouchers for veterans. Okay, it's the first time HUD and the VA came together and did a memorandum of agreement, and they allocated these VASH vouchers, gosh, I don't know, a few years ago, and